For years, I was the one they called at 3 a.m., the one who always showed up. But the night I needed them, no one answered. And that silence changed everything. The thing about being the reliable one is, nobody ever really thanks you for it. They just expect it. Like how you expect the coffee pot to work in the morning. You do not praise it, you just curse it when it stops. For most of my adult life, that was me. The walking coffee pot. My younger brother, Travis, always had a talent for finding trouble like it was on sale. Tickets he couldn't pay, rent he blew at the poker table, ex-girlfriends who took swings at his windshield. You name it. And I was always there to clean up the mess. Quietly. Without a lecture. Just a yeah, I got you. And my wallet coming out before the story even finished. That is what family meant to me. You show up. No questions, no keeping score. Like the time he called me from 2 states over at 3 in the morning because his car broke down on the way to a job interview. I left work on 0 sleep, drove 6 hours straight, got him there just in time to still bomb the interview. Never brought it up again. Or when he tried to open that god-awful smoothie stand. The business plan was written on the back of a pizza box. I still handed him $5,000 like it was nothing. Spoiler alert, it folded in 3 weeks. He told people the landlord scammed him. I knew he just stopped showing up. Even when Mom got sick, I was the one taking her to every appointment while Travis posted photos from music festivals. I never told her. She thought he was helping behind the scenes. I let her believe it. I covered him so often, I started to forget where he ended and I began. Birthdays, holidays, family get-togethers. If someone was short on groceries or late on rent, guess who they whispered to in the hallway? It was never, "Can you help?" It was always, "You always come through." That little phrase. A compliment wrapped around an expectation. Somewhere along the way, my generosity turned into routine. Not a gift. Not a sacrifice. Just my role. And maybe that was my fault. I made it too easy. Too smooth. I never asked for anything back, so they stopped offering. They started assuming. That is the thing people do not tell you about always being the strong one. Nobody checks if you are tired. But I was. I just did not know it yet. Then came that one night. The night everything changed. The night I needed them. And no one picked up the damn phone. I called them, every single one of them. And what I got back was not just silence. It was worse. It was busy signals. One after another. Like the whole world had decided I was finally too much. The day I lost my job, it was pouring. Not the cinematic kind of rain that looks dramatic through a windshield. This was cold, dirty sidewalk rain that soaks into your socks and turns your whole day sour before it even starts. I had worked at the same warehouse for 11 years. Not glamorous, but it was steady. I clocked in, did my job, and never caused trouble. So when the floor manager called me into the office and closed the door behind him, I already knew. He could not even look me in the eye. "Cuts," he mumbled. "Not personal." I nodded, shook his hand, and left with a box full of nothing that mattered. Just some old gloves, a few receipts, and a photo of my dog, Rusty, from back when he was still alive. The first thing I did was sit in my truck and call Travis. No answer. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. I figured maybe he was at work or sleeping off one of those late nights he always swore he was too old for now. So I tried our sister, Rachel. She picked up, said, "Oh hey, can I call you back in 5? I'm in the middle of something." That call never came. I texted my cousin Donnie. He always talked a big game about ride or die. He left me on read. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at an overdue electric bill and half a loaf of bread, thinking, this is temporary. Just a rough patch. So I did something I had never done before. I asked for help. Not a lot. Not even money. Not at first. Just someone to talk to. Maybe crash on a couch for a few nights until I figured things out. You would think, after years of wiring money, co-signing loans, bailing folks out of late-night messes, I would have built some credit in the family karma bank. But apparently, I was overdrawn. Travis texted back 3 days later. Just 3 words. Damn, that sucks. No offer. No come by. Just digital pity, tossed out like a used napkin. Rachel never replied at all. That was the turning point. Not when I lost the job. Not when I had to sell my TV to make rent. It was sitting there, hearing nothing but silence from the very people I had bled for. That silence. It was louder than any betrayal. It sounded like every time I had said yes, echoing back as, why would you expect anything now? And then, just as I was about to let it go, a notification popped up on my phone, a family group message. Not for me, not checking on me, but asking if anyone could help Travis again. It was a screenshot. A blurry photo of Travis's busted front bumper, captioned, "Anyone got a few bucks to help Travis out?" Some jerk backed into his car. He's really struggling right now. I just stared at the message for a full minute, blinking like the screen might change. Then the replies rolled in. Rachel, ugh, poor Travis. I can chip in $50. Cousin Donnie, he always gets the worst luck. Count me in. Even Aunt Carol, the same one who once told me I wasn't the type to succeed, offered to send him gas money. No one mentioned me. No one even asked how I was doing. It had only been 5 days since I told them I lost my job. 5 days since I had asked for anything. I had not complained, had not cursed anyone out. I just quietly said I was down bad and could use some support. And they all moved on like I had never said a word. That was the moment it hit me. Not all at once, but in this slow, crawling way, like cold water rising around your ankles. They did not forget me. They just never really saw me to begin with. For years, I had been the one who answered every call. Middle of the night, I showed up. Bail money, I covered it. Christmas short on cash, I made it work. Nobody ever asked if I could afford it, or if I was okay. They just assumed I had more than them. Because I had no wife, no kids, no real stress. Just me and a decent paycheck. So I must be fine, right? That was the story they told themselves to feel better about taking from me over and over. And I let them. So I did something petty. I won't lie about that. I clicked into the group chat, typed out a single message. Travis can figure it out. He always does. Then I left the chat. Seconds later, my phone started buzzing. Rachel called twice. Donnie texted a confused question mark. Travis finally reached out with, "What the hell, man?" I did not answer, because for the first time in my life, I was not in the mood to explain myself. The next day, Travis showed up at my door, but not with an apology. What he said instead, it was the kind of thing that burns through your memory and never leaves. I opened the door half expecting to see Travis looking sheepish, maybe holding a six-pack, ready to smooth things over like always. That was our pattern. I got mad, he acted charming, and I forgave him before he even had to say sorry. But this time, he did not look sheepish. He looked pissed. First words out of his mouth were, "What the hell is your problem?" I stood there, still in the same t-shirt I had slept in, my back aching from another night on the old couch since I had rented my bedroom out for extra cash. I just blinked at him. "No hello. No, you doing okay? I saw your message," he said, stepping inside without waiting to be invited. "You really gonna leave me hanging like that? After everything I've done for you?" That part made me laugh. Not a funny laugh. One of those dry, disbelieving laughs that just slips out because it is either that or break something. "You?" I said, my voice low. "What exactly have you done for me, Travis?" He crossed his arms like I had just insulted his honor. "I have always had your back, bro. I got you out of that fight in high school, remember? I'm the one who told Mom you were just tired when you skipped Thanksgiving." That was it. That was his list. Meanwhile, I had covered his rent for 6 months. Lent him money to pay off a loan shark he refused to name. Took his dog to the vet when he was too hungover to drive. But none of that mattered now, because Travis had rewritten the story in his head. And in that version, I owed him. "You act like you're better than us," he added. "Just because you held a steady job. You think that makes you a saint?" "No," I said, finally shutting the door behind him. "But it means I sacrificed for people who would never do the same." Travis scoffed. "That's rich, man. You got no kids, no wife, nothing tying you down. Helping your family is the least you can do." There it was. The sentence that finally snapped something in me. Not the silence. Not the ghosted calls. Not even the empty fridge or overdue bills. It was that line. Like my life, because it was quiet and simple, was automatically less valuable. Like my worth was measured by how much I could give. And Travis? He believed that. They all did. I stared at him for a long moment. Not with hate. Not even with anger. Just with a kind of dead calm I had never felt before. Then I said, "You need to leave." He laughed like I was bluffing. But when I opened the door again, this time not to let him in, his face changed. And the thing he said next? That was the real betrayal. Travis did not move at first. He just stared at the open door like I was speaking another language. Like the idea of me kicking him out was somehow offensive. Then he let out a short laugh, mean and sharp. "You're serious?" he said, tilting his head like he was trying to figure out if this was some kind of joke. You're actually throwing me out? I did not flinch. I just held the door open. That is when he said it. You're just mad we finally stopped needing you. It hit me harder than I expected. Because deep down, I think a small part of me was scared of that. Not of being unneeded, but of realizing that all the help I had given, all the love I had poured into them, had not built anything real. It had only made me useful, not loved, not valued, just convenient. That sentence stripped away any last illusion I had left. For years, I thought maybe they cared. They just had a weird way of showing it. Maybe they were bad at expressing gratitude. Maybe I was too sensitive. But Travis's words were a confession. I was never a brother to him. I was a service, a lifeline he could call when things got rough. And now that I was down, now that I needed help, they had already moved on. I dropped my hand from the doorframe, stepped aside, and pointed out. Get out, Travis. He muttered something under his breath, something bitter, but I did not ask him to repeat it. When the door finally shut behind him, I just stood there in the silence. No yelling, no slamming fists or dramatic breakdowns. Just this still, heavy air that felt like truth settling into my chest for the first time in years. And that night I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling, knowing something in me had shifted for good. I thought that would be the end of it. But the next morning, I woke up to a knock at the door. Not Travis, not Rachel. It was someone I had not seen in over a decade, and she was crying. The knock came early, sun barely up, sky still gray. I had not even made coffee yet. My head was foggy, throat dry, and the last thing I expected was company. When I opened the door, I had to blink twice. It was Emily, my ex, the only woman I ever really thought I would marry. She looked different, older, tired, and bundled in a worn-out hoodie like she had come straight from some long drive with no stops. Her eyes were red, puffy, and I could tell from the way she clutched her keys that this was not a casual visit. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice small, like she was afraid the answer might actually be no. I stepped aside without a word, not because I had forgiven her, but because I needed to know why she was here. It had been almost 11 years since we split. She walked out without much warning back then, said I was too focused on everyone else and not enough on us. Said I carried too much weight that did not belong to me, and one day I would break from it. Turns out she was right. She stood in my living room, looking around like she was trying to recognize a version of the man she used to know. Finally, she sat down on the edge of the couch. "I heard what happened with your job," she said, barely above a whisper. "And then Travis showed up at my sister's place last night, drunk. Said you turned your back on the family, that you lost it." That last part made me smirk. Of course he did. Emily looked at me, and her next words were like a punch to the ribs. I told him he had it backwards. That maybe you finally found your spine. I sat across from her, waiting for the rest. She sighed, fidgeted with the string on her hoodie. "I never came back because I thought I deserved a second chance," she said. "I came because I wanted to say sorry. I saw you spend your whole life showing up for people who would never do the same. And back then, I was one of them." My jaw clenched. I did not know what to say. Part of me had waited years for that sentence. Another part wished she had never come at all. "I thought leaving would teach you to stop giving everything away," she added, voice cracking. "But maybe I just joined the list of people who disappeared when you needed them most." She looked up at me, and for the first time in a long time, I saw genuine remorse. It did not erase the pain, but it hit differently. Then she pulled something out of her pocket, folded paper, yellowed at the edges. "I kept this," she said. "You gave it to me before everything fell apart." When I unfolded it, my own handwriting stared back at me. And that was the moment everything I thought I buried came rushing back. The paper felt soft in my hands, worn at the edges, smudged in spots like it had been unfolded and read too many times. My name was written at the top in my old handwriting. Slanted, a little crooked, just like everything else in my life back then. I stared at it for a moment before reading. It was a letter, one I had completely forgotten I ever wrote, dated nearly 12 years ago, back when Emily and I were still together, when I had just started helping Travis out for the first time. It was not long, just a few lines. "I know I do too much. I know I take on things that do not belong to me. But if I do not hold the line, who will? If everyone else falls apart, I want to be the one person they know they can count on. Even if it wears me down. Even if nobody ever says thank you. Because that is what love is supposed to look like, right?" I could barely finish reading it. My hands started to shake. Emily was watching me, tears already running down her face. She wiped them away quickly, almost embarrassed. "You gave me that after Travis totaled your truck and your dad blamed you for it," she said. "I remember how you still took Travis home afterward, how you helped pay for the insurance. And then you wrote me that letter, like you were trying to justify it all." I nodded slowly, my chest tight. "Why'd you keep it?" I asked. She hesitated. "Because I was scared I'd never meet anyone again who loved that hard," she said. "And I was even more scared of what it would do to you." Her voice broke. "I watched you get crushed under everyone else's weight. And instead of helping you stand, I walked away." I folded the letter carefully and set it on the table. There was no yelling, no dramatic outburst, just a heaviness between us that filled the room. "You were right," I said. "Back then, I was trying to hold everything together, and I thought that made me strong. But all it really did was teach people how to leave me empty." Emily nodded. No excuses, no trying to fix it, just silence. But it was the first silence in weeks that did not hurt. Then my phone buzzed. One notification. From my bank. And when I opened it, I realized someone had just pulled the last string I had left holding me together. The notification was simple. "Large transaction alert. $2,500 withdrawn from your account." I blinked, unsure if I had read it right. That account was supposed to be locked. I had set new passwords, new verification methods. I had even gone to the bank in person last month to make sure no one else had access after everything that happened with Travis. Still, the money was gone. Emily saw my face shift. "What is it?" I did not answer right away. My fingers flew across the screen as I opened my banking app. There it was. Clear as day. A payment marked to a name I recognized instantly. R. Waters, Rachel. My own sister. I felt the blood rush to my ears. My chest tightened. I sat there, gripping my phone, like maybe if I stared hard enough it would undo itself. Emily leaned forward. "What happened?" I told her. Everything. How I had been helping for years. How even after I had nothing left to give, they still found a way to take. Rachel must have remembered the old routing info. She had always handled our dad's bills when he got sick years back. Back when I foolishly gave her access to make things easier. I had meant to close that account months ago, but I had left it open, just in case. Just in case. That phrase haunted me now. I had kept that account alive the same way I kept hope alive. That maybe, deep down, they cared. That one day, they would come through for me the way I always did for them. And now, they had taken what little was left. I wanted to scream. Punch something. Drive to Rachel's place and demand an explanation. But I didn't. I sat still. And for the first time, I let the pain just sit there with me. I did not try to shove it down or turn it into an excuse for someone else's behavior. Emily stayed silent. She must have known I needed that. Because what hit me hardest in that moment was not the money. It was the final confirmation of something I had refused to believe. They never loved me for who I was. They loved me for what I could do. And now that I was empty, they were still reaching for more. I stood up, walked to my bedroom, opened the drawer where I kept all the old receipts, old notes, old memories. And I pulled out the one thing I had never dared to use, until now. The drawer was full of ghosts, old bank statements, hospital invoices, loan agreements with my name scribbled at the bottom. But tucked underneath it all was a letter I had written 2 years ago and never sent. It was not addressed to anyone in particular, just titled, "In case I finally leave." I had written it during one of those quiet nights, when the phone had not rung, when I had not been asked to fix anything, when the silence felt like peace instead of punishment. And I had told myself, one day, you will need this. So I rewrote it. Right then, at my kitchen table, with the light still low and Emily sitting across from me in silence, I updated every line. Not to vent, not to guilt trip, just to finish something I should have finished a long time ago. I kept it short. To the people I once called family, I forgive you, not for what you did, but for how long I let it happen. I taught you to expect too much from me. I taught you that I would never say no. I broke myself to build a bridge none of you wanted to walk across. That bridge is closed now. Do not call. Do not ask. Do not twist this into something cruel. I am not angry. I am done. Michael. I printed copies the next morning. Drove across town. Dropped one off at Rachel's mailbox. One at my cousin Donnie's job. Even mailed one to my parents' address, though I had not seen them in 3 years. I did not wait for reactions. I did not check my phone. Instead, I went home and did something I had never done before. I turned off every notification. Then I walked to the small patch of grass behind my building, sat down, and just existed for a while. No noise. No demands. No pretending. For the first time in decades, I did not feel responsible for anyone but myself. And it was not lonely. It was quiet. And quiet, I was learning, is not the same thing as empty. That evening, I got one final message. Not from Travis. Not from Rachel. But from someone I had completely forgotten existed. And what she said made me rethink everything I thought I knew about where this story began. The message came through an old email account I barely checked anymore. The subject line just said, "Hi, I think you deserve to know this." It was from Jules, my mom's cousin. I had not heard from her since I was a teenager. She had always been the odd one out. Quiet, kept to herself, never showed up to family barbecues. I barely remembered her, honestly. The message started simple. "I saw your letter. Rachel sent it to the group chat. She was trying to make you look unhinged. But all I saw was peace." She went on to say that she had watched the family treat me like an endless supply for years. That she remembered how I would show up to clean out our grandmother's garage when no one else bothered. How I paid for our uncle's cremation. How I stood alone at that funeral while everyone else made excuses. Then came the twist. What you probably do not know is that you were never supposed to be the fixer. Your mom used to say it when you were little, "Michael will take care of it." Even when you were just a kid, she started that idea. Everyone else just learned to depend on it. That line landed like a gut punch. Because somewhere deep inside, I did know. I had always felt like my role was assigned before I was even old enough to understand it. I was never allowed to just be a son, or a brother, or a nephew. I was the insurance policy, the glue, and they got real good at watching me come undone, so long as everything stayed stuck together. Jules ended the email with something I never expected to read. "You are not broken. You are just done being borrowed from. And that is not failure. That is freedom." I sat with that for a long time. Let it sink in. Not angry. Not bitter. Just free. I walked over to the mirror, stared at myself the way I used to avoid doing. And I said it out loud. I am not a backup plan. I am not a safety net. I am not yours anymore. That night, I turned off my phone for good. I packed a single duffel bag. Not because I was running away, no. I was starting over. I found a little trailer park 2 towns over. Quiet. Peaceful. I paid for the first month in cash and told the guy running the place that I did not need much, just space to breathe. No one knew where I was. No one needed to. Because the thing about being everyone's safety net is, you never realize how heavy it is until you finally put it down. And when I did not crash. I floated.